once was a boy, he never had many toys, but oh, he could dance, oh, he could prance. Get him in a circle, watch that old boy dance. He got a western move, he got a western groove, he got a western move, he got a western groove. She say he got a certain way when he hold he head. He just put a hump in his back, then he jump back like Jack. If you up at Rainey's place, he'll be on your case. That's where they all dance around when the sun goes down. They got a western move, they got a western groove, they got a western move. Up there they got a western groove. Good morning. Gotta pick up DJ, thank you, War, thank you, Mike.
I'll be leaving on the Alice Mabel. I sure hope that she's still able. So this evening around 5 o'clock, I'll stand at her bow and see the dock. Out in the field from dawn till dusk, swimming in the blue pool is a must. That island where I was born, the first thing I'll do is grow some corn. Wake up early one morning, kiss my mama goodbye. Going back to the island, I say, don't worry, mama, don't cry. I'll be cooking outside in the iron pot. So young when I learned, I haven't forgot how to catch them black crab as they walking. Old folks smoking pipe and talking. Saturday night we're gonna dance and sway. Shake my belly and do the gombe. People, don't you understand? I live like a king and be a happy man. Wake up early one morning, kiss my mama goodbye. Going back to the island, I say, don't worry, mama, don't cry.
When I was but a young boy, mama used to say, learn all you can, boy, prepare for rainy day. Please stay in school, boy, hear what the teachers say. This poem from the Royal Reader will help you on your way. If you drive the nail right, boy, hit it on the head. Strike with all your might, boy, while the iron is red. When you've work to do, boy, you must do it with the will. They who reach the top, boy, must first climb the hill. Standing at the foot, boy, gazing at the sky. How do you get up, boy, if you never try? Though you stumble off, boy, don't be downcast. Try and try again, boy, you'll succeed at last. Gotta pick up DJ, thank you, War, thank you, Mike.
Tonight, Hurricane Ian strengthens as it makes its way across Florida. We've got the latest on this. Also, the Prime Minister gives his year in review after 1 year in office. And later, a Bahamian family says they were racially profiled. We've got that story. Eyewitness News starts now.
Eyewitness News is linked up by BTC. Whether it's chatting, gaming, content creating, or working smart to get things done, link up to stay connected with BTC.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janae Noel. Thanks so much for joining us. Hurricane Ian roaring its way over the state of Florida, already causing severe flooding and power outages as it made landfall late this afternoon. And here at home, islands in the northwest Bahamas continue to feel the effects of its strengthening outer bands. The storm is packing maximum sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center, and forecasters have said to expect extremely dangerous winds and rain in the Florida area coming within the hours. Here at home, forecasters also tell us that weather conditions that can be expected in the northern islands.
Ian is moving towards north-northeast at near 8 miles per hour. And on that particular track, the center of Ian is expected to move on onshore, continue to move onshore, move across Central Florida tonight and Thursday morning, and then it is expected to emerge over the western Atlantic by late Thursday. It is then forecasted to turn northward on Friday and approach the northeastern Florida coast, Georgia and South Carolina coast by late Friday. The rain bands associated with Ian will continue to affect the islands of the northwest Bahamas and portions of the central Bahamas through Thursday. Residents in these islands should exercise extreme caution as these rain bands will bring heavy rain, severe thunderstorm, gusty winds, and possible tornadic activity. Rainfall amounts of 4 to 6 inches are expected, with isolated amounts up to 8 inches through Friday, and as a result, severe localized flooding is possible in low-lying and flood-prone areas.
Now, we did have an opportunity to speak with a Grand Bahama native, Rosie Dupree, who's residing in Lee County, Florida. Now, this was just moments before she lost connection. She told us about what she and her family are experiencing at this hour.
It is extremely scary situation. I have never seen anything like this before. More so of the wind. This wind is, I'm not sure if you can hear it, is the wind.
We are still trying to make more contact with Dupree and her family. Meantime, the islands of Grand Bahama and Bimini still under a tropical storm warning. Our Laurentia Smith spoke with several residents today.
Grand Bahamians telling Eyewitness News that they're not taking any chances, despite predictions that the northern islands could experience tropical storm conditions from Hurricane Ian, which has the potential to develop into a Category 5 hurricane. Many of them say that the memories of deadly Hurricane Dorian and other monster storms to hit that island in recent years are still fresh in their minds.
We don't take hurricanes lightly, storms lightly, so for me personally, it's just been about collecting water, just a normal hurricane prep, collecting water, making sure water is there, making sure non-perishable food is there, making sure the car is, filled with gas, and having just a point of exit should we have to evacuate further inland.
Got my water bottles filled, got some perishables, and stuff like that, just to kind of tie me over. Because, like you said, we're only in a tropical storm warning, but you just never know how these storms can twist and turn.
Along the coastline of the 8 Mile Rock community, seas are rough with heavy wind gusts. In the Lucaya area, residents say they're experiencing wind with overcast skies today.
Right now on the ground, it's just a bit windy. It rained earlier. There's no rain right now, so it's kind of held up for a little bit. But if the wind is definitely out here. It's not strong right now. It was a little stronger early this morning, but we do have a little bit of wind and rain off and on.
Right now it's fine because last night we had a lot of lightning and rain and stuff throughout the night. It really kept me up because when I hear that weather, it kind of gets to me.
For residents in Bimini, the outer bands of Hurricane Ian causing flooding in the vicinity of the government complex in Allenstown and near the police station.
Right now, seems like we went through the heavy part of the rain. We had a lot of rain last night and early part of the morning. But right now, the skies is pretty cloudy, but it's not raining right now. But I know we're expecting some more rain in here, probably in a short order. But it's starting to get a little dark in the south, so I think we're anticipating some more rain shortly.
Director of the National Emergency Management Agency has activated shelters in Grand Bahama and Bimini as a precautionary measure against any potential impact. Another resident from Bimini telling us that residents aren't taking any chance, taking lessons from Grand Bahama and Abaco experience with Dorian 3 years ago.
A lot of activities on the road, people getting last-minute supplies and moving heavy debris around from the area, like garbage can and wood, rocks, and parking vehicles on top of the hill from flood.
Laurencia Smith, Eyewitness News.
Well, be sure to tune into all of our social media platforms for more on Hurricane Ian. Well, steady progress and significant strides is how Prime Minister Philip Davis described his first year in office as he gave a year-in-review report in the lower chamber. He touted his administration's accomplishments, noting that they've been able to tackle a wide range of national issues.
We eliminated the travel health visa, which was such a burden to so many Bahamians. We enacted legislation concerning the presumption of death in order to allow survivors to more quickly settle the affairs of loved ones who go missing after circumstances of peril, such as hurricanes. A family island help desk was set up in the Department of Local Government to assist local government personnel in navigating red tape and addressing relevant issues. The Revenue Enhancement Unit was reestablished to collect over $1 billion in tax arrears. New carbon credits legislation was passed, which will enable the Bahamas to be compensated for the role that our mangroves and seagrasses play in eliminating carbon from the atmosphere.
Well, the Prime Minister also outlining strides made in the public sector, tourism, housing, and more, noting that funding in the area of social assistance has also increased by some 50%. And as for the way forward, the Prime Minister says, while the government will continue to build on the foundation his administration has laid on the first year, parliamentarians, he said, must be mindful of how they conduct themselves as they work for the people.
On our side, these are the standards that have been and will continue to be enforced in our caucus. And I have every confidence that the leader of the opposition will do the same with his. I'm pleased that we have toned down the shouting, the insults, and the demeaning personal attacks, which were too often on display in the last parliament. You know, I could count on the one hand, fingers on one hand, the number of occasions when I was allowed to participate in debate without being shouted down with vile smears, and insults. It did not serve the public well.
Well, the opposition continuing to raise questions tonight to the government in Parliament on a number of national issues. The opposition leader, Michael Pindart, calling on government to give a detailed account of steps taken to subsidize Bahamas' parent light company as fuel prices have skyrocketed in recent months.
The Prime Minister in the social media has indicated that the government is subsidizing BPL to avoid an increase in cost to customers. When was the policy formally communicated to the Bahamian people? What is the value of the subsidy? How much has been paid out? If the subsidies are to cover the increased cost of fuel, how does this align with the law that requires BPL to adjust the surcharge to meet its fuel obligations? Is the government in breach of the related regulations?
The opposition leader also calling on government to reveal individuals and companies who were awarded government contracts since coming into office.
Can the minister with responsibility for transport confirm the exact amount of taxi plates given out or distributed since the New Day government came to power? Just two more, sir. Will the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance table in this honorable House the list of individuals and companies who have been awarded government contracts since the PLP came to office, and considering that his government is in violation of the Procurement Act? And finally, will the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance advise this honorable House why this government continues to break the law in relation to the Public Procurement Act?
Meantime, the Long Island MP, Adrian Gibson, standing his ground in Parliament today, maintaining that he will continue to serve the people of Long Island. This as he prepares for trial that begins tomorrow. The embattled MP, along with others, face some 98 charges of corruption and bribery that allegedly occurred when Gibson served as chairman of the Water and Sewage Corporation In Parliament today, Gibson thanked those who have sent him kind regards during this time.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy, I want to thank everyone who's been reaching out and sending words of encouragement. I thank you all, those on my side and the opposite side. And so I'm very grateful. Mr. Speaker, I most especially want to thank the people of Long Island. I thank you all for your love, support, kindness, words of encouragement, and your prayers, and I will continue to work as hard as I can on your behalf. Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
Meantime, public debate surrounding marital rape continuing tonight as local activists fear that government may not address this issue swiftly. However, officials argue that the process could take some time. Our Jose Etienne has both sides tonight.
President of Women United Podesta Moore expressing her reservations about the Davis administration having yet to make a decision on criminalizing marital rape following a consultative session with various stakeholders on the issue 2 weeks ago.
I think it's a delay tactic. It's like we want to push it forward. We're trying to appease a certain group of people by saying, hey, we're doing something about it. But at the same time, we're inviting those people who have opposition to this marital rape bill. And that's causing the delay tactics. But they have the authority, they have the power. I don't know if they have the political will, but they can make the decision on their own right out of the last consultative grouping that we had.
Her response coming on the heels of assertions made by Attorney General Ryan Pinder, who says government will not put a deadline on the consultation process.
We don't want to really slam the door on such an important issue. We want to keep it open and get some feedback. We've already received a few comments on the legislation from different parties to tweak it or to provide certain different language that we're looking at, and we don't want to discourage anybody.
However, she says she's skeptical about the consultation process, which she says could ultimately lead to a roadblock on the issue.
The ministers have the responsibility to make the hard decisions, and if they have these consultative sessions with the various people, and civil society were not represented, a number of civil society organizations and groupings where women are involved were not represented at that session. And it begs me to ask the question, who is making these decisions? Is the church the ultimate authority?
But on the flip side, Bahamas Crisis Center Administrator Cleopatra Christie contends that the consultation period is critical and is needed if in fact officials are going to make inroads.
I don't think that is detrimental to the issue of marital rape. It was a collaborative effort. It was trying to get all of the stakeholders together so that we can have a meaningful discussion and at the end of the day come up with a piece of legislation that we're all agreed on.
Christie maintains, though, that at the end of the day, there needs to be results.
It should include members of civil society organizations. The people that most are impacted by the marital rape bill are not there. Their voices are not being heard. The women's voices are not being heard. So if you're going to continue the consultation, which I don't think it's necessary, because decision can be made at the same, based on what the outcome was at the last consultative session. But if they're going to continue, it needs to be in small sessions, small groupings with the various stakeholders that can actually lend their voice to support this bill.
Mm-hmm. If indeed, on the other hand, that after all of this consultation, that there is no action on the part of the Attorney General and his team, then maybe we would be in a position to make the comment that they're delaying it for whatever reason. It's not a priority to them, but until such time, I think we need to be concerned about getting the views, talking about it, discussing it, educating our general public.
Jose Etienne, Eyewitness News.
Well, in other news tonight, the statue of Christopher Columbus on the steps of Government House is in the process of being taken down. Back in October of 2021, the colonial monument was damaged. The incident captured on several videos that went viral. Cervantes Smith, who called himself Michael the Archangel, was seen striking the statue several times with a sledgehammer. He was later arrested and ordered by the court to have a psychiatric evaluation. His actions, however, reigniting debate on the complete removal of the monument a decision government has said will be guided by public opinion. However, sources close to the matter telling Eyewitness News today that the remainder of the statue is being removed for repairs and could possibly be relocated. It's a story we are continuing to follow. Well, a Bahamian mother and daughter came face to face with what they call multiple heavily armed police officers while vacationing in Florida, resulting in the duo now seeking legal action against a South Florida hotel. Leah Cooper has the details on why in this next report.
We've seen it on social media and in headlines across dozens of U.S. news entities, multiple accounts of black men and women losing their lives at the hands of the police. And a Bahamian mother and daughter vacationing in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, believes they too could have been another statistic. Meet Tiffany Bethel Pettigan and her daughter, Tamia Daxton. They had just arrived in Fort Lauderdale this past Saturday and were attempting to check in at a hotel.
When we got there was a gentleman behind the counter trying to assist guests in checking in. Once he got to me, he tried to use my Visa debit card, and he couldn't get it to go through.
After 4 attempts of trying to swipe, tap, pin, and enter the card manually, the front desk agent was unable to successfully charge Pettigan's card. Pettigan then indicated that she noticed a couple attempting to check in also experiencing issues with their card. It was at this point the front desk agent phoned the hotel's general manager for assistance.
So while he was talking to the general manager with regards to this, to the other couple's issue, I asked him if he could allow her to walk her through my issue as well. Because maybe the card isn't being entered correctly. So he said, I tried 4 times, and he started to get, a little agitated.
She says from that point, it was a back and forth between Expedia attempting to remedy the situation and friends and family members trying to offer some form of assistance. Pettigan says she initially thought that in the worst case scenario, she and her daughter would stay in the area, do some shopping, and get some food. She intended to return to the hotel around 8:30 that evening with her friends so that she could use their card for the charges. However, she says they weren't allowed that option, and that's when things took a sudden turn.
He's on the phone saying to his general manager that the customer is being rude, the customer is being belligerent, and he basically is asking for permission to call the police. So I hear him talking, but I don't think that he means me. He started to shout into the phone at the rep from Expedia, and he said to her, the card declined 4 times. I'm canceling this booking, and I want off this property.
Overwhelmed with confusion, Pettigan says she questioned how a simple banking error ended with she and her daughter being ordered off the property, never to return. It was at that point, she says, the front desk agent indicated that he was going to call the police.
The doors open, and in walks 3 heavily armed police officers. I felt as though had I been the cliche Black woman, the cliche Bahamian, had I been that me, I do believe that situation could have turned deadly.
She says she even went live on Facebook in an attempt to protect herself, but even that video was met with some criticism.
And so I have people, making comments and suggesting that maybe I was rude or belligerent or I carried on in the place and that's why the guy called the police and then I calmed my tail down. That was the statement. The burden of proof is on me. I have to prove that I behaved calmly and that I was not rude and that I was not deserving of the treatment that I deserved, that we received.
Since the incident, Pettigan says they've been contacted by the hotel's manager and general manager, who have both extended their apologies for the mishap and indicated that a refund was processed. Moving forward, she says she intends to take legal action against the hotel.
For me, this has happened often, but it's not going to happen again. I'm not going to lay down. I'm not going to take it. Because we as Bahamians, we have to know our own buying and selling power. We are the vast majority of tourism. And so if we are able to go there and be mistreated this way, and then we continue to go and we continue to give them our dollars, we have to know our power.
Leah Cooper, Eyewitness News.
Well, if you've got a news tip or if you've seen news in the making, call the Eye on News hotline at 397-6397. We also invite you to send your letters to the editor for on all of our social media platforms at Eyewitness News Bahamas at gmail.com. And if you're watching on our Facebook or YouTube page, share your thoughts about today's stories in the comments section. We want to hear from you. We are just getting started in Eyewitness News tonight, but when we come back, it's a bumpy ride for Andros residents. We've got that story coming up. And later, Claridge Road residents have some more issues, but it's not flooding this time. We've got more on that story right after this break.
We just got the new fiber internet speed bump. Now
this segment of the news is sponsored by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
Welcome back. Here's a look at your Eyewitness News gas tracker. $5.85, your local average for a gallon of gas. And you'll get the cheapest today at Esso, $5.71. Shell coming in at $5.88 per gallon. Rubis, $5.96. Well, as the public continues to grapple with inflation and record high food costs with no significant reprieve in sight, one government reformer is attempting to shed light on the Bahamians that are going to bed without a meal. Our Tyler Simonet has the details in this report.
With a $1 billion food import bill looming over our heads, the Bahamas continues to face issues with food security. According to a recent survey by CARICOM, a number of Bahamians were found to have skipped meals, worried they would not have enough food to eat, and some even revealed that they would go a day without eating. Head of the Organization for Responsible Governance Economic Development Committee, Hubert Edwards, says he's tentative to describe this phenomenon as a hunger crisis, but believes the survey brings a much larger issue to the forefront.
We just came out of, or we are still coming out of, a very significant health pandemic and in financial crisis. As a result of that, persons would have lost their jobs. Individuals would have find themselves in places where they have to be using up their resources, savings, and so on. And at this point in time, they're making very, very serious decisions as to, one, whether they're going to eat, whether they're going to miss a meal, or the type of expenditure, whether they're going to spend on food versus health or education. So yes, the issues are significant. At this point in time, a hunger crisis, maybe not, but there are important issues which would have come out of this survey.
One nonprofit group that regularly distributes food packages and hot meals to the public is also feeling the pinch of increased food prices. Newly appointed director of the Bahamas Feeding Network, Mario Carey, says that the needs of the public is overwhelming at this time, with mostly mothers and children lining up daily for something to eat.
Found out with the Feeding Network is that they currently feed on an average of 72,000 meals a month. If you look at the population in New Providence, which is about 275,000 people, that's about 10% of the population rely on being fed by one of the feeding organizations like the Feeding Network. That demand seems to be growing. We must sort of bring some awareness to people going hungry. And there's nothing good about persons not having food to eat.
Edwards believes that this inflationary pressure will continue without reprieve over the next few months, which will force some members of the public to make lifestyle changes. As for those living on or below the poverty line, he remarks more discussions need to be had to bring them some sort of relief.
To be as frugal as possible. We have to say in a two-tranche way, for those who can, be more frugal, be more sensitive with how you spend your money, how you budget, and the things that you do. For those individuals who are living on the quote-unquote edges, you have to survive as best you can. And we then must speak to the policymakers, we then must speak to the government to say, look at the programs, the plans, and the initiatives that you have in place to ensure that they are sufficient, they're responsive, and they're able to support these individuals who can support themselves. So,
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Well, the news from Andros tonight. Unpaved roadways becoming a daily annoyance for residents in the northern part of that island, so much so that one resident reached out to Eyewitness News to voice her discontent today. Now, we put her concerns to the Member of Parliament for that island. Artheo Seeley is on this story.
It's a bumpy ride for residents in North Andros who travel the only road in and out of the Red Bay's community. Norma Knowles reaching out to Eyewitness News with video footage of what her daily trek on the rocky path looks like.
We have one way in and one way out. The only other way of getting out of Red Bay will be by boat. Our road is in a deplorable condition. It has been like that for some time.
It's an upset for residents commuting to family and friends, and for people trying to get to work on a daily basis as well.
For persons who work, like I said, to Bamsey, they have to endure this every morning and every evening. For the bus driver who takes the children to the high school, they have to go through the same thing morning and evening. And it's just unbearable. Enough is enough.
She says she's contacted successive governments about it. She sent me a copy of a communication sent to the former Public Works Minister, and she says she got no response. And since government has changed, she says she spoke with a Mr. King at the Ministry of Works, but still no forward movement yet.
Unfortunately, Mr. King said he heard about the condition of the road, but he didn't know it was this bad because he was down here in Red Bay himself. But as for our Member of Parliament, he knows the condition of the road because he was here. The Minister for Education, she knows the condition of the road because they were just here. But like I said, only who has to be on this road every day, dealing with this road, only who feels it knows it.
Well, I reached out to the Member of Parliament for North Andros and the Berry Islands, Leonardo Lightbourne, today, and he says he's on it.
It is in a very poor state as we speak. Some of the areas going into Red Base and throughout the community Red Base. With some initiatives I've started, I've also did some partnership with with Apex Pavers in regards a few months ago to see that those residents have some kind of smooth in and out of transport from Red Bay. But as we speak, I know the residents are frustrated. I want them to know that their member of parliament is working to see that this project is on the way. Our administration would have addressed that in terms of in the budget that has been passed. The contract will resume in a few weeks in terms of the contractors coming in there and actually starting to do road works.
The proposed roadworks that he speaks of to be rolled out in North Andros would be added to a pile of other massive roadwork projects already underway and in the pipeline for the 2022-2023 fiscal period. Theo Seeley, Eyewitness News.
Well, back here in the capital, a leaking cesspit, a concern for residents in the Claridge Road area tonight as they fear that the bacteria-ridden water can be a danger to their health. Devontae Hanna has their plight in this report.
The smell of a leaking septic tank inundating the homes of residents on Raymond Road off of Claridge Road.
It's been like that for about 6 months. I called all the authorities, everybody I could think about. At first I thought it was the water that was leaking, but then it started to smell. And finally water and sewage came. And the gentleman said it's not them, that I have to call the health department, environmental people.
A resident who spoke to Eyewitness News anonymously says the home believed to be responsible for the leak is being rented out by 2 men who say they've also complained about the issue.
So I called everybody, environmental health. I even called the minister. I called them and nobody came. And it's leaking and it smells awful. It's sewer.
And just steps away from that leak is Claridge Primary School. And this now raises another concern as students, they will have to endure that scent every day. But they also have to move through flood waters to get to and from school, which can pose a major threat to their health.
When it rains, water settles. The water's in the street. The children walk and go into school. The people wet them up with that smelly water. It's a disease-borne water that's there. And it's terrible when it rains. Because when it rains, it's spread because water settles through this corner, Raymond Road East.
Trevor Banton, owner of Banton's Pumping Service with over 2 decades of experience in the business, says homeowners should seek to engage pumping services as soon as their septic tank fills.
So it all depends on your area where you live to. The tide, sometimes when the tides come up, the cesspit come up. When the tide drop, it tide go down with the cesspit, go down with the tide. Sometimes, because the soak away work with the tide. Sometimes the cesspit come up, and when the tide drop, the water still remain. It don't leave, so you get a backup, and that's what you call the truck for you get this.
Floodwaters in the area now muddied with bacteria as the rancid scent pierces through the homes of those that live nearby. And their biggest hope after enduring the unsanitary conditions for 6 months?
I wish somebody would come and fix it. I wish the gentleman who the house belonged to would come and fix and pump his cesspit out.
Attempts to reach the relevant authorities and the landlord of the property were unsuccessful up to news time. Devontae Hanna, Eyewitness News.
Well, in other news tonight, a fire in North Eleuthera leaving sections of the neighboring settlements without power for more than 10 hours. Leah Cooper has more on this.
A utility pole allegedly sparked a fire in the Lower Bogue area last evening. This according to local government representative for the current community for the North Eleuthera District Council, Aldred Albury. Albury claims he saw a sparking from one of the electrical poles around 8 p.m. It was at that time he decided to notify BPL personnel.
And the gentleman that was in the office at the Hatchet Bay power plant took the information and said that he would pass it on to the linesman and have it reported for someone to come check it out. So I proceeded on with where I was headed at that time. At about 10:57 p.m., someone else that was passing the area called me and informed me that the light pole was actually on fire. So at that point, I told them that I had already spoken to BPL, but I would head that way then. When I got there, the light pole was highly engulfed in flames, and the wooden structure had actually already burnt to the ground.
He adds that this incident ignited separate fires along Queens Highway, heading into the community of Current.
BPL has not showed up as yet, and it's now 11:05 a.m. I found out this morning, and I think this is probably one of the inadequacies of the Family Islands, that they do not have BPL linesmen actually on duty. Apparently, in the night, they're on standby. So when a call comes in, someone can only come if someone is available to come. I just found that out this morning. I was not aware of that. So apparently no one was available last night to come. Luckily, we were able to mobilize volunteer firefighters along with a fire truck, and were able to extinguish the 3 fires that it started to avoid them from spreading and causing an even bigger fire. However, the house, like I said, was already burned to the ground.
We also caught up with a few residents in the community who expressed their concerns.
Power's been off, I think about probably 12 hours now. You know, and it's really becoming vexing because nobody's saying anything. No notice was put out or nothing like that. And there was a big inconvenience, you know, for people who were going to school and people who was working. But PPL, you know, they really got to do a lot when it comes to PR. You know, they don't put on as much as they should.
Honestly, a lot of people are very frustrated. Very, like, they voiced their opinions in here this morning, and yeah, it is frustrating. Like, it ain't that much we could do at this point. We can only keep calling until they stop answering. Only a few of us are power, like, at certain points. Like, at this shop right now, Johnson's Groceries, we don't have any power. We're using a generator. And some people's power go with water and stuff. So, right now, it's a hassle because either you have to go to work or sometimes you have to go to school.
In a statement issued by BPL, the power company says it received word of the incident around 7 a.m. today. A team was immediately dispatched to the scene where they controlled the situation, isolated damages, and turned on all areas not affected. A replacement pole was also dispatched, and full power was estimated to return around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Leah Cooper, Eyewitness News.
Also to come in Eyewitness News tonight, our BTC Beat Business feature is up next. But first, here's a check on tonight's weather forecast.
This portion of the news is brought to you by J.S. Johnson, Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
You're looking at live pictures of the six-leg roundabout on the John F. Kennedy Drive, where the temperature is right around 88 degrees with an expected dip to 77. This is Eyewitness News. Welcome back. Well, finding the perfect product for your dog can become quite a task when you're faced with limited options that may be scattered across several different stores. But tonight, one young man tells our Devontae Hannah how he can provide you with a one-stop shop while turning his passion into his main source of income.
This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC Business. Multiply your growth today.
At just 21 years old, Jaden Lockhart is living out his dream as a business owner, providing what he's calling the one-stop shop for all of your supplies for your furry friend.
It all started when I have my own personal dogs, and I started ordering my own supplies, and it's like, you know what, I might as well order some supplies to sell to other people and to actually blow it up. It's successful, and now I got my own storefront.
The canine supply shop may have had its storefront open for just a few weeks, but the business idea, Lockhart says, was born years ago.
I always had a drive to be my own boss and make my own money instead of being employed. So I always kept pushing and kept believing in myself, and my dreams came into reality.
The new business owner provides vitamins, accessories, and even dog food, but he also provides services like grooming, transportation to the vet, and artificial insemination.
Because I'm a one-stop shop. You don't have to go to Tom, Dick, and Harry and then come to me. So instead of wasting time and gas, you come right here. We also do deliveries to the family island and locally.
He's living out the dream, he says. His passion turned into a source of income, and he provides this piece of advice for anyone with a desire to open their own business.
It takes a lot of sacrifice. Like sometimes your days up on the partying and distance from friends, and just focus on your business and just keep on investing. Sometimes it may seem like nothing is happening, but it's just God testing you with just trials and errors.
The grand opening for his East Street South location is this Saturday, and he is inviting all to attend.
Grand opens on Saturday, so everyone is welcome to come and see all our supplies and products, and we might also have a few sales on a few items.
Eyewitness News salutes young men in the community like Jaden Lockhart who are making a positive impact every day, even if it involves taking care of a dog one day at a time. Devontae Hannah, Eyewitness News.
Also to come in Eyewitness News tonight, our Randy Smith has the latest from the Sportsplex. Good evening, Randy.
Janaea, the University of the Bahamas is set to host its first cross-country meet this weekend. Hear more about it coming up in Eyewitness Sports.
Once upon a time, not too far away,
This segment of the news is brought to you by Hennessy, the spirit of sports in the Bahamas. Good evening, everyone. I'm Randy Smith, and welcome to Eyewitness Sports. Setting off tonight, the University of the Bahamas will host its first cross-country meet this weekend at the Sports Center. The meet will include courses between 1 kilometer to 4 kilometers.
We're well known in the community for what we do in track and field. And so a part of the athletic agenda is to expand our cross-country element. And so I think it's important that we display at the university level what we have, some of the recruits that we've been able to attract. And this will also give us a great way to see what's out there as far as cross-country talent. And so we're very excited that this is the first one, and we look forward for this to be a long-standing event that the community can look forward to.
It's going to be at the Sports Center. We did a challenging course all within the same area of the new stadium, around the gym, in the carnival area, down by where the grass is. They're going to do a loop around the track. So everything is in one area where the coaches can be able to move on the field, cheer the athletes on. We want to make this a fun-filled event. Definitely, a competitive one, because we're looking in the future to have, when those colleges come in to compete at the collegiate level, and we also have the high school where they could be able to get recruited all at the same time.
In baseball news, despite being out with an injury for the remainder of the season, Josh Chisholm, he gives an update on his progression after rehabbing for nearly the last 3 months.
You know the season's going really well, and you're helping your team every day. And, it's just hard to walk away from such a season like that, especially in the first half. I was hoping to be back around right now. Actually, it was a big upset that they can't come back and play. So the club is looking out for all of my best interests. So I'll just sit down and relax. Oh, I'm doing great. Working out every day, coming in here, working out, in and out, getting my work in. I thought I was going to be back in time for the All-Star game, really, until it just didn't go that way, Got the news that it was a stress fracture and that it won't heal properly, and just had to go with that.
And in softball news, the Cyber Tech Blue Marlins knocked off the Atlantis Titans 10-3 to sweep them 2-0. With that win, they advanced to the NPSA Championship Series and await the winner of the CNS Hitmen and the Chances Mighty Mitts. The Hitmen lead that series 1-0, and Game 2 is set for Thursday night. In women's action, the Wildcats beat the Lady Truckers 10-4. They now await the winner of the RAB Operators and the University of the Bahamas Mingos. The Operators have a 1-0 lead in that series, and their second game is set for Thursday as well. Well, that does it for us in sports, but stay tuned. Eyewitness News continues in a moment. I'm Randy Smith. Have a great evening.
You're watching Eyewitness News.
Welcome back. Well, veteran broadcaster Spence Finlinson receiving a major award in New York for his contributions to the Bahamian American Association. Officials sought to honor him as a Bahamian making a significant impact through his work in media across the country and overseas. Now he currently serves as the host for Immediate Response, a local show on ZNS Radio, where he seeks to recognize citizens making stellar contributions in the country.
Last week, Saturday, I was honored in New York by the Bahamian American Association of New York, and the plaque read that they honored me for revitalizing the association. They were celebrating the 110th anniversary of the Bahamian American Association in New York. And last Thanksgiving, I took Immediate Response on the road to New York, where we broadcasted live for 2 days, interviewing outstanding Bahamians in the New York area, including quite a bit of the members of the Bahamian American Association. So they thought it was fitting to honor me for the work that I've been doing in terms of the television show and as a motivational speaker, speaking internationally.
Well, following his trip in New York, he says he's hoping to take his show even further around the world.
I'm planning to go on the road again soon to Atlanta. With this Immediate Response will be in Atlanta, November 9th through the 12th. A couple of months ago, we were in Houston doing the show, and there are quite a bit of outstanding Bahamians there. After we've done that, of course, the plans to take it overseas. When I say overseas, I mean over into Europe to do the broadcast live from those areas and to make an impact and to highlight outstanding Bahamians who live and work in these areas.
Well, congratulations to our fellow broadcasters. That wraps up news this Wednesday, but coming up and beyond the headlines with Shanique Miller, she takes a crack at the government's first year in office and what the Prime Minister had to say. That's coming up beyond the headlines. It starts right after this. That does it for us here at Eyewitness News. It's certainly been a pleasure having you in our company tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Janae Noel saying good night and be safe, everyone.
Guests and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Parts of Florida are underwater at this hour with more than 1 million residents without power. Grand Bahama, Bimini, and Grand Key are forecasted to experience tropical storm conditions, and they have been, in particular Grand Bahama, resulting in the Ministry of Education closing schools on those islands until further notice. Areas of Grand Bahama are prone to flooding as a result of storm surge and storm tides. And of course, since Hurricane Dorian, residents are traumatized. And so tonight, we're going to hear exactly, one, the present conditions on the island and how residents are faring after they did experience a few tropical storm force conditions. We're going to join now Darren Cooper, who is a local businessman and talk show host. He was stationed at Command Center in the western area of Grand Bahama all day, really. And this evening, Darren, I know you just stepped out of a meeting at police headquarters on the island with Assistant Commissioner of Police Theo Cunningham and many others. Good evening to you and welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good afternoon, Shanique. Good afternoon, Bahamas. I think Grand Bahama is pretty much doing well. Today I had the wonderful privilege of working with the West Grand Bahama District Consul Office. As you know, that would have been the western of Grand Bahama Island, which was expected to really feel the brunt of the storm. And so I was in the Mactown to Seco Town area patrolling the waters, making sure we monitor those areas. And so around the high tide time, there about 9:30 to 11 o'clock, residents would experience water to the road because we were on high tide. But once tide began to go down, that whole experience sort of dropped. And so the water concern was not much of a concern at the time. We didn't have as much rain as we expected to have, or we thought that we would have had. We had plenty breeze in Grand Bahama. I think the whole island would have experienced a lot of breeze. And so pretty much it's been a tropical storm sort of day, a lot of breeze with sun. We got some shower late this afternoon. And so pretty much, a lot of preparation has been put in for the Western District. I want to commend Administrator Carlton Ferguson for the West Grand Bahama District, along with the officer in charge of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Jerry Henfield, and also the Chief Consular, Jimmy Smith, who led the team. And they have been keeping us informed minute by the minute, everything that was going on. They were keeping the full team. The trucks were in place, bus were in place. So they were proactive in making sure that if this storm gave us any surprises, that they were prepared. Their command centers were up and running. Residents had contact numbers. They sent out videos informing them. Shelters were open at the Bethel Deliverance Center. Social services also was in position. Mm-hmm. And so pretty much today, I think this team was very much ready with whatever limited resources that they may have had. Mm-hmm. They were very prepared. And this was not put together last night, but this has been constant meetings that we've been having long before the hurricane season, putting in mechanisms in place, making sure that systems are properly spot checked and everything is ready to go in the event that today would have been a disaster. And so we're grateful to God that we've been able to go through today. I think, for some businesses were closed, other businesses remained open. Mm-hmm. I think we've had one reported power pole down in Grand Bahama, and that's I saw
that photo and video. Where is that exactly? And also, I understand some people's power is out. and also that there were trees blown about, etc.?
Well, the power pole that is down, it's down in the area of Call Road, and that particular pole supplies power to many areas of Grand Bahama. I must say that I've been in constant communication with GBPC, Ms. Russell and her full team, Mr. Moss. Crews were out on the road from the from the minute that pole went down. When I got out there, power was in full effect. REV was in full effect, because it didn't only affected power, but it also impacted cable and internet. And so they were on out there. They're still presently out there. The weather is not so good for them to really do the full restoration that they would want to do. I've been advised that they're trying to alter, or they're trying to redirect power from different supply lines to be able to make sure that residents don't go through the time of a long discomfort of waiting for power. But this particular line that went down was a main supply line that supplied power in quite a bit of areas.
Several areas.
Several areas. And so from what I've been told before I got online, that some areas were back up and were powered up. Some persons were still experiencing some outages. And so we've been able to send names and account numbers directly to GBPC. They're now checking those locations, and then they will then, with the safety to the best of their ability, send crews out to check, see if there's any other isolated areas that need special attention for whatever reason. And so I think Grand Bahama, from the Western District in Freeport, we pretty much managed what could have been and what was today a tropical storm warning.
Yeah. By the way, Darren, did you all advise residents to stay indoors during the whole time and not try to go out and maybe catch some sea swells or videos, that type thing?
Well, Shanique, the West Grand Bahama administrator has been doing that through his videos, along with the chief consular. Also, the Ministry of Grand Bahama and the Minister for Grand Bahama also released a press statement advising residents to remain safe, to stay indoors to the best of their ability, and to not take this, whatever we are experiencing, lightly, but to be very well prepared and equipped, and making sure that we don't drop our guards. And so there were quite a bit of warnings from relevant government agencies, warning persons to make sure you do your part. And so I think pretty much they're doing what they believe is the right thing to do. And so that's pretty much for Grand Bahama in a nutshell today. And doing what we can to go. I think we're pretty much not being a weatherman, but pretty much think that we would have already past a lot of the bad swells that we probably could have impacted us.
Yeah, obviously the storm has hit Florida and has even moved inland. But let's just talk about shortly after 6 this evening, you went into a meeting at police headquarters in Grand Bahama with a number of stakeholders. Is that meeting still, because I think you stepped out of that meeting to speak with us this evening. Is that meeting still ongoing, and can you tell us the stakeholders that are in there?
Well, Shanique, that meeting that I'm presently in that meeting at police headquarters. That's a total different situation. It is more or less. It's not hurricane related, but it's more community related. And being able to hear some of the concerns of community leaders and being able to have them addressed, more to do with neighborhood watch and so forth. So it's pretty much it's really different from the hurricane or the tropical storm that we are faced with.
I know you were out and about earlier today and also into this afternoon based on where you were stationed at the command center. Were you able to speak with residents? I know a number of residents expressed the fact that, listen, they were a bit skittish because of just memories of Dorian and knowing that this could have produced strong or big storm swells and surges. And were they expressing that to you?
I was, again, like I say, in the Southern District, which would have been the Hunters and Pinners Point. And I don't think residents took this tropical storm warning as serious as they should have. A lot of persons was out on the Bayshore Road, enjoying the cool breeze, allowing the waves or the waters to wet them up and just go through the whole experience. And that would have been from the Hunters area and also in the Pinnis Point area. And so you had a lot of residents, not a lot, but you had quite a bit out, and was not really affected by it. It was like a regular cool day out on the beach for some of them. I've had the opportunity to speak with some persons in West End. They were rather concerned. They were hoping for the best. And I think West, from 8 Mile Rock Corner to West End, experienced the brunt of the rain that we would have got in Grand Bahama. They had more rain than the Freeport area. And so they were more concerned, especially seeing the high seas, persons not having the seawall in certain areas. And so they were sort of concerned because during the high tide, you really couldn't see the rocks. Water was already to the road. Debris from the ocean was getting onto the roads. And you'll see that in quite a bit of the areas, even in Pinnis Point, Hunters, and 8 Mile Rock. You'll see a lot of those areas that don't have the seawall. Quite a bit of the seashells, the conch shells, the big rock from the ocean is in the road. And so I think more the 8 Mile Rock Western community took it a little more serious than the other areas of Grand Bahama. And that was because they were expected to feel the real full brunt of whatever Grand Bahama was going to get. And so they were a little more prepared and being prepared for the possible storm.
Right. Darren Cooper, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for stepping out of that meeting that you're in right now. Thank you for stepping out of that meeting and giving us an idea of what took place on Grand Bahama. And of course, we are all joyful that the western area did not get the full impact of tropical storm force conditions as it was forecasted. We, of course, send our prayers, our thoughts to those in Florida and even in Georgia, but certainly in Florida, that's taking a pounding. We send our thoughts and prayers. But thank you for joining us, Darren.
I just want to be able to give a big shout out to the West Grand Bahama District Council. They did a hell of a good job in equipping and preparing their full team for this storm that we went through. And I mean, they were properly organized, full planning, and the team just was ready to move in the event that they needed to be called on.
Well, congratulations to them. They obviously had everything in place and was ready to activate if necessary. Thank you very much, Darren Cooper, for joining us and giving us an idea of how Grand Bahama fared today. We certainly, of course, appreciated all of the insight and information you shared. Thank you. When we come back, the Hot Topics panel is here and they're going to weigh in on some of the big stories today. Don't go anywhere. Beyond the headlines, it's just getting started. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. We're going to jump right in and meet the Hot Topics panel. Of course, you guys, you know the panelists already. Beyond the Headlines correspondent Leva Miller, Beyond the Headlines contributor Cassia Stewart. Guys, good evening to both of you. Let's just talk about the good news that in our first segment that we just had. We heard from Darren Cooper, and Grand Bahama did not even get the full force of tropical storm conditions, which we know still is nothing to take lightly, but certainly great news there. And at the same time, I don't know if you all saw videos coming in from Florida to see exactly how we were spared.
Well, Shani, you know, Grand Bahama, any good luck that they can have is good news for me. You know, islands like Grand Bahama and Abaco are so interesting in the topography, right? That literally, if you visit West Grand Bahama these days, you don't see near the catastrophe that is or was visited upon East Grand Bahama in the wake of Dorian. And it almost makes you forget how catastrophic they can be. But if you remember, I think it was Wilma that completely almost obliterated West Grand Bahama. And so, you know, a lot of times people living on the same island are equally as unaffected by the storm as their cohorts living on the very same island. And so, you know, those islands, the ones like Grand Bahama and Abaco, they always pose a very special challenge. It is because, you know, you're already a part of an archipelago. And sometimes it's difficult as an Asuvian to feel what it is that they're feeling on those islands. But honestly, sometimes it's difficult for Grand Bahamians and Abaconians to feel what it is that the people in the affected areas are feeling. And so I'm just happy at any point that they are spared. While it is the second city, you know and I know that it is a rut for all intents and purposes. There is no real hospital facility there. I would hate to have a massive evacuation airport exercise going on out of there. You know, there's just so many pieces that aren't synchronistic enough to allow for there to be synergy. And so I hear Darren, yes, and I imagine that the local community efforts were sterling, of course. But what if? You know what I mean? And that is always where I like to end my thought on these things. You know, the what if. We can always pray that there is no fire. But what happens on the day that there is a fire? And, you know, we just can't continue to keep praying to dodge the bullet. I hope that one day we move towards city governments, particularly in places like Grand Bahama, so that when these things happen, we have the wherewithal to withstand.
Well, I want to thank God for not allowing the storm to come near Grand Bahama. I was in Grand Bahama last weekend, and what I realized is that I'm still seeing the remnants of the previous storm. You know, when you look at the airport, and you drive to the city, you still see the remnants. And I was sitting here thinking, as I was listening to Levon, what can I say? And the only thing to say is just speak the truth. I think the people of Grand Bahama are sick and tired of governments who keep failing them. I think the people of Grand Bahama are sick and tired of the Grand Bahama Port Authority because they've failed them. When you look at the international airport, it's in shambles. You look at the domestic airport, it's in shambles. When you drive through the cities, it's in shambles. When you look at Port Lucaya, it's in shambles, empty. When you look at downtown, it's in shambles. And so Grand Bahama has been failed over and over and over by the PLP, by the FNM, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And I think the people are sick and tired of all of them. And so I think we need to speak the truth. I think this administration need to pull up their pants, pull up their socks, and get to work and get Grand Bahama back on track. They said to me to tell the government, we are tired of talk, we want action. And I'm here to say that the people of Grand Bahama are sick and tired of all of this talk. Yeah, this, we can do this, we can do that. We don't want to hear that. Get to work.
Well, the thing is, you know, the Progressive Liberal Party, the government, celebrated its first year anniversary last week, officially. Today in the House of Assembly, Prime Minister Davis really highlighted several of those areas that he feels are accomplishments and things that is moving the country forward, Your thoughts, I don't leave in, maybe you want to jump in first, on some areas he highlighted. I mean, union relations was among them, and other achievements.
Well, you know, the Progressive Liberal Party did what the Progressive Liberal Party does, and that is they came to power on the back of union labor, right? And so I think that they are making good on the promises or the side agreements that they may have had while they were in opposition. You remember that the unions got the then leader of opposition to sign a memorandum of agreement while he was in opposition that listen, if we were to become the government, we would try to get these deals behind us, right? Which I thought was masterful. Because technically, you know, he kind of promised them an open envelope, right? There's no real way that they could have held him to that once he was in the chair, but it's good to see that he tried to maintain that promise. Like I said in here last week, I think for a rookie minister, she is punching in a weight class above her weight class, and that is Minister Pia Glover-Roll, who my understanding has been quite instrumental in a lot of the signing of these agreements. And if that is so, a first-term minister with 1 year in office, a novice politician, pulling off those kinds of agreements with juggernauts in the union, like Belinda Wilson and names similar, you know, you begin to wonder whether or not the PLP does want to make good on all of the promises. Now, of course, governance doesn't come out of an infinite resource. It comes out of a very finite resource, actually. And we know exactly where the money comes from. It comes out of our pockets. But I will say this, a glimmer of hope for Grand Bahama, Cassius. I see that the Honorable Ginger Moxie is very instrumental in trying to get a maritime industrial academy down there. I think that is the right direction to go.
So you're finally giving her credit for doing something, because it takes a minute to steer a ship, Levin. Mm-hmm. It takes a minute for her to get whatever she needs going, mm-hmm. and have it in hand to be able to kind of steer that ship where she wants it to go.
I'm a Bible man, right, Shanique?
And you weren't particularly...
I still don't know if I'm absolutely convinced that she has the wherewithal to get it done. What I am saying, though, is that I'm a Bible man, and in Genesis somewhere, I think it's 2 or 1 and 4, the Bible talks about how God forms man, right? And it talks about God forming man out of the dust of the earth, right? And so I think that's where she is right now. I think she's at the phase where she's forming the concept of a new city, right? But at some point, I need her to breathe the breath of life into this thing. It makes no sense to have all of these wonderful things written up on white paper, minute paper, and whatever other kind of paper that would lay down and let you write on it, if when we get to the nuts and bolts of the matter, you do not have what it takes to breathe the breath of life into the project. Okay. And that's what I hope happens for you. But she's getting a Bravo Zulu from me tonight for even pointing the ship in that direction.
I mean, whilst we're still on Grand Bahama, I think one of the fundamental problems I see with Grand Bahama is not that, you know, I think the fundamental problem, I think, is just the spirits are broken. You know, after you've been beaten down so much by so many hurricanes, because I remember being a part.
And that takes a certain type of leadership, Cassius. You're right about
Precisely.
that. She has to get their mindsets, their wills back, as well as introduce wonderful opportunities like a maritime institute.
So you could bring opportunities after opportunities. If nobody's there to take advantage of the opportunities, it means nothing. And so you have to really, like he was trying to, I think, crystallize, breathe that breath of life in the people
into the people.
Because their spirits have been broken. I remember they were just getting back on their feet. I was a part of this program with the Port Authority, and they bought some of my books and they were giving out to all of their licensees. And there were a lot of these entrepreneurs who were talking about what they were doing, and bam, the storm came. And it just knocked the wind out of everybody's sail, and everybody just drifted away. But the point I'm trying to say is that it takes leadership to breathe that life back into the people. It takes the prime minister, who is the head of the Bahamas, who is the father of the nation at this time, to breathe that life and to tell the people that you got to speak to their spirit and say, listen, even though we were knocked down, we will get back up and we will go stronger and stronger. And if another storm comes, we will build stronger and stronger. You got to give people that hope in the face of all of their despair.
Well, what I see, Cassius, and I've been there just as recent as you. I've been to Grand Bahama within the last month. The one thing that is continuing to be mind-boggling to me is, despite the uphill challenge, despite the derelict airport, despite the absolute rut and fodder that the city center is, despite the ghost town that Lucaya is, despite the lack of development in Western Grand Bahama, despite the fact that...
Jesus, even if you say one more despite, what's
the
there?
salad is good.
The people, the people
are
though,
the draw.
And they refuse to leave it behind. When you walk through a Grand Bahama or Freeport City and you say to people, I mean, what is there to hold on to? It is an invisible hope.
No, they ain't leaving.
It is an invisible
They ain't
hope,
coming to
Shani.
town.
They are
For sure
not
they ain't coming to
leaving.
town.
No, you're
Freeport.
right. You're
and
right.
so maybe, Cassius, and you can help me with whose quote this is, because I'm not sure. If we can't get Muhammad to come to the mountain, then maybe it is time to find a way to get the mountain to come to Muhammad. Maybe it's time to figure out which big industry is going to go on the ground in Grand Bahama and cause there to be an attraction of a population. Maybe we need to figure out how do we farm a population in Grand Bahama.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to, and so these are the kinds of nuts and bolts. You know, I've always said I'd build a Walmart right on the boundary line of Freeport and West End, and so the back of Walmart will be Freeport and the front will be West End, right? But we've got to start thinking about how do we make it work? How do we do the new things or some of the old things, but in a way that causes there to be a draw on the population? Because the one thing we do know is if we can get the economy to shift, then there will be Grand Bahamians there to support it, because they under no circumstance are leaving Freeport.
Let me just add a little point too. I found it very interesting. During the Iraq War, Americans did something during the occupation of Iraq. After every IAA bombing within the city, they would have a team come up and move all traces of that bomb or any semblance that there was ever a bomb in the city. It's because of the psychological effect that was happening to the people. When you drive to Grand Bahama and you see the remnants of the storm that had such a psychological devastation on the
it
people,
needs to start there.
you need to move
retraining of the mind.
those triggers so that the people could now begin to renew. But if they're trying to renew themselves and every time they go to the airport and they see all this degradation and destruction, it brings back the memory that yes, that was it. So I think first we got to clean up the city. We got to move all those trigger points that triggers that psychological imbalance in the people so that they can now begin to move. But like Levan says, right, they said to me, they ain't coming to town and they love Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama is a lovely place to be. So let's make sure that Grand Bahama, the second city, be the Mecca that it was supposed to be.
And Pookie them, in case you don't know, Cassius, Pookie them start killing in Turks and Caicos now, so they ain't going to Turks and Caicos either, which is typically where Grand Bahamians would run to.
Precisely.
But I don't know if you've seen what's been going on down south. I didn't even know down south. I didn't even know Pookie them could get that far. But Pookie them doing bunch of killing.
Why do you think Pookie them from here going there?
Well, they say that their problem is related to people that are not Turks Islanders, right? And if you know the population of Turks Island, largely it is made up of Haitians, people from the DR, and Bahamians. So I assume that could be Pookie them.
Could be Pookie them. Pookie them saying, why you all always blaming me?
Listen, guys, speaking of leadership and inspiring a people, well, perhaps the Prime Minister is doing that on the global stage. If you all saw Nations at the weekend where the Prime Minister picked this topic up and bravely, no pun intended, or perhaps why not, bravely said, listen, what y'all are doing, European Union, with nations that are led by black leaders, and I'm paraphrasing this bit, led by totally unfair, because the larger, more superpower nations have not put in nearly as many regulations as these smaller island nations have through their financial services industry, and yet you continue to squeeze, what more do you want? Is the Prime Minister leading sort of a new conversation and then emerging as this regional voice and leader to help sort of bring attention to that aspect of the way black nations are seen?
I mean, there are different voices within the Caribbean region that has been saying this over the last 4 or 5 years. Because we're not the only one being affected by this. There was St. Vincent talking about it, Barbados talking about it, and several others have been saying, what are you all doing? Why y'all keep squeezing us? I think, for us though, in the Bahamas, this is the first time we've had a leader that we said, whoa, you actually said that? And so, finally somebody has balls to go ahead and speak to these people. We cannot be timid to say what we want as a nation. And, be it as it may, I mean, they keep pushing us back. As far as I can remember, I've been active in politics more than 20-something years. But as far as I can remember, there was always a threat of being blacklisted. Always a threat. So this has nothing to do with Brave Davis. It was before him. So it was Ingram. It was Christie. It was Ingram, Christie, Davis.
Yeah.
So we was always...
I remember in the 90s, it was the first blacklisting with Ingram.
It was always this switch they had for us. You capitulate with them. then what
happens? And I wanted to ask you guys that, and leaving us to weigh in first, but I want to know, what is the fallout if the Bahamas say, man, hey, y'all.
So I say, listen, we need to tell them carry up because, we
Don't say the Bahamian way.
No, I can't say that. See why I can't say that.
Well, you can't say the other thing. So that's it.
You want to suspend us?
How would Urka know what that acronym is?
Well, I would tell you this. I would tell you this, Shanique. I think while there have been other people in the Caribbean that have actually preached the same gospel, I think we were more righteous than most of them because the Bahamas has one of the most rigid financial services set of legislation on the planet, actually, and I think what the Prime Minister did on weekend pass was quite cavaliering. You know what I mean? In the inner city, we would say he broke bottle on the court, and it is because they don't have these kind of hang-ups with people like America that has trillions of dollars worth of debt and far less regulatory underpinnings, etc. What I do think, though, is that the Prime Minister, for whatever it is worth, even if it doesn't have any collateral, is proving that he was possibly one of the most underutilized people in the Christie administration. The Philip Davis that I saw at the UN last week, I couldn't have imagined. I couldn't imagine him, even as Deputy Prime Minister, pulling off a performance like he did last week.
He didn't need it. It wasn't on him at that time.
And so maybe he was underutilized.
Maybe he didn't. And he respectfully gave the Prime Minister his time to be the chief and to go make statements like that.
Sure, but what I think was also very notable is same UN congregation, right? Maybe a different event. I'm not exactly sure, but just over 2 years ago, we have a Prime Minister that's kind of suggesting to the world that a lot of our difficulties are because we're such a corrupt bunch of people who just like to thief a bunch of money.
He was in a Bahamas. I know how you get there.
But the messaging.
I know how that fella get there.
The messaging on the world stage, Cassius, is one that I would far more hear. I would much rather hear the leader of my nation say, listen, my people got their problems, and I ain't saying that we are without stand.
You always defend your
what
people.
I am saying to you is, y'all calling us thief or robbers, being no robbers, be the thief.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
Y'all say we ain't
Wait, slow that down now. You got to slow that down now.
I asked what's the difference.
Hold on, you got to slow that down because that is a very...
One requires a little bit of violence. The other one suggests that I have no intention of violence at all.
Say, you're a robber, but you're no thief.
I no thief. No, I'm a thief. I ain't a robber.
You're no robber.
The next thing is, y'all say that I ain't compliant. I can't be compliant if compliancy is something as fluid as this. And I think at some point, Cassius, the IDB, the IMF, the double B rating and the triple B rating, and at one point we just need to stop reporting their ratings. Because if you ignore them, right, I imagine that eventually they will come up with some stuff that you will either be able to comply with or not be able to comply with. But what you cannot do is continue to allow people to play the game of sending the fool further with you as a government. And if they continue that, Cassius, I believe that it is quite appropriate for you to tell them, carry your credit rating.
Oh, leave it. I know you thought of that and you came out nicely.
You sharp.
Leave it told them to see why.
I ain't believe, whatever they say with you, I ain't believe that no more.
You're so silly. But what I'm saying, gentlemen, is what happens when the Bahamas does that? Because at some point or the other, you only could fly to Europe so many times and try quickly scramble to get this done or that done or put in this regulation.
Wasn't Cayman under the threat of some blacklisting of some sort?
Well,
look
now,
at the economy.
Next month, exactly, just so booming. And that's what I'm saying. So when we say carry a credit rating, when we say that, what happens then? Like, what is it that we need to do?
Then you get on the phone with the premier of Cayman and say, boy, hand me the playbook. Let me see how you maneuver your way through this. And this is why CARICOM exists, right? So that we, as a group of nations, could govern in the best interest of the people who we govern. We all look alike. Largely, we all sound alike. And we typically suffer from the same problems. Rising sea tides and monster storms are either killing most of our land and will eventually kill all of our people. If they don't want to give us, y'all keep talking about reparations from the Queen, how about we do band together to get some of this carbon credit out of the international community? I think that's a whole lot easier than reparations, and that ain't in no museum. We could go get that now. And if we band together and you say to Cayman, give me the playbook for how you get around this kind of stuff, and you say to other places like them, help me maneuver around, and you get America on the phone and say to them, hey, why they ain't doing it to y'all? and you come up with a plan that will work for your country and not continue chasing this invisible post.
If I may, I mean, we're a part of different groups. We're a part of CARICOM, we're a part of the Commonwealth nations, right? I think we need to look at where our strengths lie within these groups of countries, and say, listen, we have to fight back because they're trying to strangle us, right? And so we have to say to the European Union, if y'all keep pushing us back, then these are what we're going to do within the Commonwealth nations. We're not going to allow, we're going to increase taxes from Europe coming into our jurisdictions. We could partner with Africa, who's being squeezed as well too. The Africa bloc is what, a $3 trillion bloc now. That's a major bargaining power for Europe. So we say to them, listen, all us in this together. If you want us, you got to come for us, and we're not going to capitulate to what you're all doing anymore. But we cannot do it trying to be an independent country.
And Europeans aren't fond of the European Union. All of them aren't.
And so, but when you look at Boston, per se, they have some of the largest tax havens right in Boston. Throughout the United States, they get tax havens, but nobody bothers with them because they're the United States of America. But little us, your people want to hide one little $12, they won't come, but you can't come at us. So we have to now, when you come to the Bahamas, when you see the Bahamas, you don't see the Bahamas, you see the Commonwealth of Nations now. We're not just a young, small country. We are a group of nations. And that's how we got to negotiate with Europe and the rest of the world.
Well, speaking of the European Union and this whole matter of blacklisting, and by the way, there are 2 other regional nations that are scheduled to be blacklisted next month as well, as the Bahamas is. I think Turks and Caicos is one, by the way, and another country. But Attorney General Ryan Pinder says the FNM has politicized the whole blacklisting issue of the financial services industry. We are going to talk about that, and I'll get these guys' opinion on it. Is the FNM politicizing it? After all, I think it was them that said that the Prime Minister dropped the ball on this. We're going to get their views and more. Beyond the Headlines comes back right after this. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Before we go into this topic that I teased just before the break, Levin, I know that normally we kind of give a shout out to KS Moses, and I'm wondering this top, this top with the flamingos in it, is that their shirt as well?
Well, you know something's unique. Breast Cancer Month is quickly approaching, right? And so I wanted to put the pinks in. You could tell the people I got pink pants on too, right? And I got my pink flamingo socks on too, because I don't play around. Yeah, but you should still go check my friends at KS.
But that's a strong market shirt though.
No. And I want to shout out my friend, though, Webster Fowler, and I met a wonderful guy this week, Shanique. His name is Rob, the preacher from Bible, what's his name? Bible something church on Collins Avenue. It's great guys.
You don't remember the name of the church?
Huh?
Yes, in any event, I was wondering
Calvary
about
Bible Church. See
Calvary
that?
Bible
Bible Church.
Is that on, where is that you said again?
Right up the road from KS Moses. That's what made me remember.
Right
You said KS Moses.
Calvary
Bible right up the road from there. And I met their pastor this week, who is Robert, but they don't call him Bob, because you know most Roberts are Bobs, most Richards are Dicks. But he is a Robert that's actually a Rob, and he has a wife named Beth, and he loves her more than fresh bread out of the oven. See that?
Yeah.
You saw KS Moses just triggered all of that.
Just all that memory and everything, and the whole neighborhood is covered now, and the whole area is covered. But I knew that couldn't have come from KS Moses, because it's just a lot going on there. It's like the other shirt you had on the other day, but it was nice. Remember that shirt, Cassius?
I remember that.
That was KS Moses.
That was a lot happening on that shirt.
We were mourning during that time. He was screaming.
That's good. I like that.
Breast cancer is coming up. Don't forget the whole month of October. I got my pink flamingos.
So that's why you explained that.
Yeah. So again, shout out to the Daddy-O, Webby Fowler. He's making sure that I got a little breast cancer stuff going.
Also, he's responsible for the shirt.
I never said that.
Oh, okay. Let's keep going. I don't know why you shut him up when we mentioned shirt, but anyways.
Shopping group, it's females' clothes.
No, they don't.
We're gonna get
I don't
her
think
pin.
they do.
We're gonna get her a sash pin.
How come they never call me and ask me, and I always talking about them on the show?
I don't know.
Anyway, I ain't talking about them no more. That's good.
The European Union.
I know, right? The Attorney General says the FNM is really politicizing this issue unnecessarily so. In fact, I think he laid some of the blame on them. But what the FNM is saying or has said is that, listen, the Prime Minister dropped the ball here. These letters were being sent for months. They were basically ignored and told, yeah, we're going to get to it. But obviously they didn't, and now the financial services industry faces a blacklisting next month. Is this issue being politicized? That's the question, as the Attorney General has said and told the media.
You going, Cassius? All I would say is this: ask the last Attorney General. He specialized in dropping the blacklist ball. He would know if the blacklist ball was dropped. The Honorable Carl Wilshire, and ask him, because this isn't new. It happened to us with him, and I'm not saying that makes it any better. I'm just saying that I don't know if these are the kinds of things where I prefer to see my government and my opposition come together in a more solidified, holistic way to kind of ram heads together and figure out how to stop having the white people pull stunts on us. If you continue to just kill up one another, right, for cheap
if you're so distracted on pointing fingers,
right,
you're saying you're not paying attention to the real issue.
Right, so sit down in a room and say, Brave, you half smart, I half smart. Let's come up together and be whole smart so that these people could stop outmaneuvering us. Because they outmaneuvered, think about this now, they got 2 QCs under their belt now. 2 light-skinned QCs, right, and 1 light, white, bright, and almost white. Carl Bettel get outmaneuvered, right? They outmaneuvering Ryan Binder. The 2 of them happen to be KCs. I don't imagine that they dumb. So how are these people continuing to pull this off? Let's get in a room together. Let's not make this an issue where you pick up political points and figure out how to stop having them punch us this close to our face.
My initial response is to you all shut up and don't let these people pull our threads the way they pulling our threads. They got us running around like we chicken without a head. Nothing this government, the previous government, or any future government will do would please these people. When you're going to understand that?
That's my point, Cassius.
And so don't let them cause us to be bucking heads like you were saying. So shut up and get to work.
Yeah, and listen, call Carl there and say, hey, Carl, I didn't think you know too much about much things, but this EU blacklisting thing, how they pull it on you? Let him walk you through that procedure. Say, okay, now you go home because we ain't want you here doing nothing else that relates to the law. And then you call Ryan and then you say, hey, this is what Carl Bettel said to us. This is how they pull it on him. What do you think we need to do to shore up this plan? Let him take a look. We're talking about 2 KCs now. Like literally, if we put the 2 of them in a room, their billables would be about $5,000 an hour. If you're trying to tell me that 2 people with that amount of brain power can't figure out a plan, then I don't know.
I don't know they will, but I think though the F&M is trying to gain some traction, but you don't gain traction on this issue. Find another issue to gain traction. Wrong issue.
Yeah.
Wrong
Save
issue.
a dolphin or something.
Find another issue.
Yeah.
Boy, said very well and convincingly. You don't need to add any much more to that, eh? Come together, let's work, let's get this issue resolved, and move on from with the finger pointing.
Let me ask you this one question, Shanique. Does a blacklisted Bahamas benefit F&M members?
I don't think so.
Does a blacklisted Bahamas benefit PLB members?
I don't think
This
so.
is just one of those issues where you collectively come together as a country. It's like a hurricane, right? Because they are attacking us on our other front, right? So if the infrastructure goes missing, that's bad for all Bahamians. If the financial capital and ability to borrow and all of those other things go missing, that's bad for the whole Bahamas. You do not. It's like siblings. You know what I mean? I will punch my brother in the face at every opportunity I get. You had better never try to punch my brother in his face.
See, but we've been governed. We govern on the blame and shame game. So I want to blame you and shame you because now you're the man holding the bag. Oh, and it's your fault. And then Ryan will say, oh, no, you fall. And no, you did it. And so basically, no, we're not going anywhere. 50 years, we're still doing the same thing we've been doing. It's the F&M fault. It's the PLB fault. Listen, on this issue, it is none of your fault.
Not just this one. They could also go invite Shannon on Cartwright to go have a seat as well while we at it.
On this issue, I would join.
And the one of bloodbaths in the street, Shannon on Cartwright could go and sit down on that one as well. Because when you have the reins of power, you cannot say that crime is not a political issue. The opposition ought not politicize it. We're doing all that we can.
I miss what he said, Lee.
What
did Shannon on say that
there needs to be a plan about the bloodbath on the street. Now I will give him this one feather to put in his hat. Love them or hate them, the numbers were less under the Free National Movement. I don't credit a government for that, though. If you know my philosophy, crime rises and falls at the foot of a commissioner. So I know if you all need to go call Anthony and make him a special consultant to the Office of the Commissioner of Police, or call Solly and make him a special consultant to the Commissioner of Police. All I'm saying is Anthony Ferguson and Solomon Cash oversaw 3 years where Pookie them couldn't kill 100 people if they try. Let us figure out what was that plan. I know they've hushed them into retirement, fine. But if they know the criminal elements, know the modus operandi, know the police officers that can get it done, know whose expertise needs to be where in order to get good criminal prosecution. And I've also said, let's add a legal liaison to all of our police station and criminal investigation departments. Then maybe we will see crime go down. Maybe we will see recidivism go up, because I see that the prison is also bragging about recidivism being down. Well, if Pookie them killing everybody, they can't go back to jail because they, by Lakeview, right? The ultimate point I'm making, Shanique, is let us agree on some of the things that we're going to be nationalists about, right? And on the issue of policy, we can disagree as political parties about the policies that do not affect us all as a country. Because I'll tell you what, if Pookie them kill all the PLPs, eventually they come in to kill the F&M them next. So let us figure it out collectively.
Levan, thank you very much. Cassius, thank you very much. Listen, let's just shift this whole mood, right? Be inspired. Mount Tabor Minute of Inspiration is straight ahead.
For 35 years, he has faithfully served his God, his church, his country, and his world. He has served us, and now we pause to celebrate him. Under the distinguished patronage of Their Excellencies, the Most Honorable Sir Cornelius A. Smith, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and Lady Clara Smith, Mount Tabor Church presents an unforgettable retirement gala affair honoring His Grace Bishop Neil C. Ellis and Lady Patrice Ellis, Friday, October 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. The Imperial Ballroom, Atlantis, Paradise Island Resort. Tickets are priced at $300. For further information, visit the official MountTabor.org website or contact the church's office at 392-9300. This is our year to watch, wait, anticipate, and celebrate. It's time to celebrate.
Because that's okay. We are. Of course, again, thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. Look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening, where we will have another exciting show and, of course, panel discussion on the biggest stories of the day. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. Make it a great evening, everyone.